Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the RayBeam podcast. Today we have very special guests, Spiro and Barry of the Gently Down project and local Portland artist Lauren Fensterstock. We all have Ashtanga yoga as a common thread. We'll be getting into various subjects, which should be equally fascinating, tying them to yoga and spiritual practice. Hope you enjoy.
Hey, everybody. Nice to have you on. Thanks for making the time for the podcast. Why don't we go around the circle here? You can introduce yourself and then we can start a conversation. So, Spiro, you want to start?
Sure. May we begin with light and peace and prosperity and all the good things. My name is Spiro, and I'm with Gently Down, which we'll talk about. Yeah, I think that's the long and the short of it.
Excellent. All right. Barry?
My name is Barry Silver. I'm originally from New York City. I'm currently based at an artist residency in San Francisco, California. And most of us know each other from the Ashtanga yoga world. And Spiros and I have been friends for 25 years, creative collaborators in various conceptual art projects. We used to have a t-shirt brand and a chai stall in New York City. And we are about to embark, we're currently recording the day before Christmas. And we'll be leaving just January 3rd or 4th to head to India to do our next art project that we want to talk about. Yeah.
Excellent.
Happy to be here. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. And Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm also originally a New Yorker, but now I think 24 years in Portland, Maine, which I can't believe. And I'm also an artist who my background is actually in jewelry, but I mostly make sculpture and installation. And I'm really interested in these intersections of meditation, asana, and making. And I see them as all very connected.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. Okay, great. So you two, you're off to India and the Gently Down project. You want to talk about that?
Barry, you go first. You go first. You give a good.
Well, as I said, Spiros and I met in New York City in the early 2000s, and Spiros was operating a chai shop out of the Eddie Stern's yoga school in New York in Soho. And the chai shop became kind of the social meeting place of our New York downtown yoga scene, and also became the jumping off point for us to do different conceptual art projects. And we came up with the moniker that we used for the umbrella term was Gently Down, as in the children's song, row your boat, row your boat gently down the stream, that stream of life and stream of consciousness. And life is but a dream. And then we came up with this idea through some actually post-practice coffee conversation with some friends about talking about consecration and taking items and putting them through a series of rituals and ceremonies, and this concept of transformation from something that might seem like a mundane item into a empowered talisman. And because we were doing so many screen printed t-shirts at that time, we decided to take 108 t-shirts with us to the Ganges River. We went to the Himalayas, started in Haridwar, and worked our way all the way up to a place called Gomukh, which is the geological source of the Ganges River, a glacier in the Himalayas. And we bathed, beat, and blessed the shirts in this process. We bathed them in the Ganges River to remove all the karmas, have them beaten against the rocks to get rid of any remaining residue, and then have them blessed in temples and different ceremonies. And so that the concept of transformation was not just for these items, but for us as well. And we would get bathed, beaten, and blessed and go through our own transformation process, and also go as conduits for the 108 shirts. We bring 108 shirts with us. The 108 people that get the shirts create a mala or a prayer. And so the items people would get, it was more than just a shirt. It was really a memento of your participation in this prayer, in this project. And then we do it also for the good of all beings. And so that's the concept. We did the first one in 2005. We went back again in 2015. We did that one in Varanasi. And then Spiros, a couple of friends had called Spiros. I'm like, hey, you guys want to go to, we want to go to the Kumba Mela. It's happening in January, February. And Spiros was like, oh shit, it's like 10, 10, 10, and 10. It's time for us to go back again. So he hit me up and he's like, yo, I think we need to go back to India. And like, once you get the call, like at this point, it's part of our saga. And so we're like, all right, let's do it. I was living in Puerto Rico at the time. Spiros came down for 10 days and like we whiteboarded and spreadsheet and we did that stuff, but we also kind of like lit some fires and set our intention and said some prayers. And then we met again in Los Angeles a couple of months later, and we started to really solidify, especially solidify the prayer and the intention, and then started to collaborate with a few people around the imagery and the items that we're taking with us. And so it's been a fair amount of work over these last few months to get to where we are, but we're really excited. We launched the project 2 weeks ago, and the initial response has been really positive. And so it's exciting. It's starting to pick up some steam and like that. Spiros?
Yeah, let's see. We started the whole idea was based on like Lee Scratch Perry. We were talking about how Lee Scratch Perry used to record his tapes in underground for X number of time, you know. So there's some sort of like ritual and the elements and nature and some sort of transformation that happens with the elements and the spirit. And so we were talking to another friend who does sound recordings and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, you should do this and go to, you know, India. And we were all talking. And so that's how it all came about. And this year we went to this dome in Hollywood Hills where the Theosophy Society first landed. And this was like their secret lair. Now it's like cheap apartments, and but there's some fight going on right now about making it a landmark, but it's not yet. Anyways, in that dome, which has been renovated, we prayed and fought and went through our thing, which Barry and I do, but we made a sigil. So the intention became that in Barry's shirt right there, it's the blue. That's part of the sigil. You can't see the full sigil, but you know, it's where you take the prayer, the wish, the desire, and you emblemate it. You make it a graphic, and then in a lot of the rituals, you kind of forget it. You eat it, you sort of, and then let the subconscious world, the subliminal world, sort of work it out and trust in that and listen to it and perform on that. So that's what we went, that's what we do. So this time we decided that we would base it on the transformation of the tarot cards from the star or from the tower to the star. And so they're sort of a little yin and yang in some level, but also the semblance of when things fall apart. And I'm thinking of Pema Chodron and stuff like that. So things are falling apart outside, but they're also falling apart inside. And when those things fall, when our default mode network collapses, then we see something new that was blocked. And that's the star, at least in one of our renditions. Right. And I was listening to Lauren, I was listening to your podcast, and I was listening to one of the questions that you openly asked, which was, what do we do in the dark? And I really love your sort of dark crystal work and sort of this sort of dark star in a sort of emblem of part of what we're doing. And I think there's some overlap there with our work and yours in that sense.
Yeah. Sure, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I already have like a million questions for you guys based on what you said. Rich, is there a question you want me to respond to, or?
No, go. If you got something to say, go for it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah.
Like before I say anything about myself, I mean, I'm just so interested like in this. I should preface everything I say by saying I have like a back injury, and I also just took like a whole bunch of CBD. So I'm going to be like a little loose here. But I'm so interested in like that your project has both like the pilgrimage piece, there's like you, the bringer, but then there's the thing itself, like the t-shirt. And I mean, I just wanted to know, like, what do you see as like your role as the bringer and then the role of the object? And are those the same or different? Does that make sense as a question?
It's so, first of all, to answer one thing, or to say one other thing, what you said, I mean, this is why this project is so fun and important for me. It really integrates so many of the different aspects of the things that I love to do that at times in my life actually cause conflict, because the things that I like and that I'm attracted to both philosophically and outwardly cause conflict sometimes. So when I do something like this that brings it all together, it's so healing and nurturing for me. So and then to answer around the objects and the roles that it and we play and how that goes, it kind of changes from time to time. The objects are both are pieces of art that we created. They're also like fashion and fabric, you know, that's a material thing. And so it's something that becomes just the tool, because really, if we think about it, we really the ones who want to go through the transformation. I think about it this way sometimes, okay? Some people, like, it's hard if a person is a healer, right? And sometimes it's hard to just like hang out that shingle, right? So, of what they do. So they need some sort of vehicle. Okay, it's acupuncture, it's physical therapy, it's massage. It's really just a way to get the person on the table and get them in the room, right? So it's the same thing. Like, we need a vehicle to work. We like to have a vehicle to work with, to get ourselves and the other people through the transformation. So the things that we bring really just become a tool for that to happen. It could also be looked at, as I said before, it's like, okay, I participated in this communal transformational process, and this is like my gift bag, right? I get this to both wear and remind myself that I participated in, and also part of it is, as Spirit was talking about, like the sigil and the prayer that we really intentionally injected into the image, that the viewer, even though they might not know, when I walk by in this shirt and somebody sees this shirt, it is having a projection of that image of the star, of that process with Spirit. Because when we first got down to talking about it, both of us were in that space of the tower, like everything was crumbling. We felt like everything was crumbling down, like, and the tower could also represent like safety and security, right? And when it's burning down and crumbling around you, you can't see on the other side of it. You're just in like this terror. And then it's only after that one realizes, like, all these things I was clinging to were really like a tower could be looked at like a prison also. I was like stuck inside these beliefs and these things that I thought I needed for my safety. And now that it's crumbled, I see the clear sky of the star. Spiros?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, as you were mentioning, that the healer isn't really healing, you know, it's really just clearing the way and letting, you know, something else come through, letting the body heal itself, letting all our blockages like relax a little bit, and let's, you know, healing actually happen. And in the same sense, we're like going through all these rituals, we're doing consecration things, we're calling the directions and the grahas or the planets and all this. We're also going to temples, but really we're just getting out of the way, and we're creating something that you know, that can be imbued with spirit, with luminosity in some sense, with light. And in that sense, that's sort of why we're doing it. We're building our own internal fire, you know, our own digestive system and stuff like that.
And so, so the other, just keep going. The other thing that we're bringing with us, in the past, we've just brought the t-shirts, the 108 t-shirts. We wanted to kind of expand I mean, we're like, for us, this concept is like performance art meets ritual ceremony tinged with a little late stage capitalism. So this 108 shirt model worked in 2005, kind of 2015. It's now 2025. We wanted to expand both our potential to support ourselves and finance the project, and also for as many people as possible to participate. So we also, this time, we have a coin that one side has the Ganga Devi that our friend David DeAndreas made for us, and then on the back side has the sigil. And so we'll be bringing these coins with us, the t-shirts. I'm gonna show you the, well, since I'm marketing the t-shirt. So the t-shirt, this is the front. It's got the Davy image. I'm gonna turn my blur off for a second. Hold on. Blur my back up. So here's in the front, the Davy and the sigil. The back has the bathed, beaten, blessed in the Ganges River, Varanasi, and each shirt is will be numbered, hand numbered in the 108. And then the inside of the shirt, by the way, the shirt is absolutely fantastic. It was custom made for us by a brand called One Golden Thread. It's really, it's like the most beautiful organic stretch cotton, a very super conscientious, community-minded brand. And what's interesting, we have this lays right behind the heart. It's a mala with a manifesto around our intention and one golden thread. And the fit was so amazing. They have their sigil of their own label. Their design is a 108. They do everything in 108s. And their concept, each shirt has this golden thread sewn through it. And so that's the connection for each shirt and each person who wears it. So a friend of ours put us in touch and said, you guys would be a really good fit to work together on this. So no, the shirt came out. I've been taking it off. So little plug. And I'm going back to blur.
Spirit, did you have more about that?
Yeah, I mean,
Always.
first of all, the 108, we do everything also in 108. So the shirt is also like each bead on a mala. And so the idea is that the spiritual materialism is one of the things is just that the t-shirt, or what do you talk about your t-shirt? Oh, it's a nice t-shirt, it's soft. That's one thing people talk about with their clothes, or it's cool, or I got a great deal. And so we wanted to, this was in 2004 when we first started talking about this. We wanted something else about the story that was beyond just getting a deal or being cool. And so this is like a network of beings that are all part of one mala. And we're all sort of going through this process. And Barry and I are just sort of like the goofballs that are sort of the carriers, but we're like fighting, we're like, tumbling, we're having a hard time, but there's a story and we create fun stories with that. And so in that sense, it also brings us a remembrance that this is not really a shirt or about a shirt. This is about like reminding us that there's more going on than just the mundane, just our daily grinds and all those type of things. So we wanted things that help remind us of that quality of being.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the 108 people like throughout the world, all like going about their activity, and sort of like that invisible like the invisible thread connecting all of these beads. Yeah, there needs to be like live cam somewhere.
No, it's a good idea. We should try to get everybody on a Zoom call with the 108 little squares.
Yeah.
Or they should have to all
true.
perform like some task or something, I love it. No.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I relate to that, like that, because, a lot of the work that I do is mosaic or it's cumulative. And for me, there's, it's like something that happens when you bring all of these pieces together that maybe weren't supposed to be together, like the people wearing your shirts, or for me, it's like I'm making things out of like disparate parts or like natural rocks, found materials. But you bring them together and you can create this like a vibration and a harmony that maybe you wouldn't have rationally predicted.
Yeah, I love that idea. Most of my for years, my main medium was collage.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about it. It's so fun to bring these like kind of random things together and torn edges, and then somehow it creates some cohesive story in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's relational. It's like dating the wrong guy, like whatever it is. But it's like when you're in a relationship, you're activating a self that you wouldn't have found without that relation. So whether that's like material or interpersonal,
Good point. I wanted to talk about the Devi image that David drew for us, which is just fantastic. He also does like an Ashtanga yoga based, or it began Ashtanga yoga based Hatha calendar for, for a long time. He's been doing, he has one for this next year. But he, you know, we were inspired by the Star and by the Pamela Coleman Smith version and the Thoth version, but we're also the Devi Ma. And so he did this beautiful rendition where it fuses both of them. And, you can see the star on the shirt, and that star is also rendered like Capricorn stars, like the stars of Capricorn, because this is the time that Kumba Mela starts, is when the sun enters Capricorn, strangely enough, or maybe not strange. And so then the Pamela Coleman Smith version has two kundas, two pots. And one of them, there's been different talks about what's going on, but we have a singular one because really the rivers are what are joining, and so there's some sort of unity. And in this, there's three streams coming out of the image, so that one is Ganga, which is the other, and then the third is the
Yamuna, the Ganga and the Yamuna. So if I may, they say like if India was a body, the three main nadis, that the Ganga is the Sushumna, and the Yamuna and the Saraswati are the Ida and the Pingala. And so the Ganga and the Yamuna are actual rivers that one could see or enter, and the Saraswati is a ethereal river that can be seen by some.
And sometimes only.
Have you seen it, Spiros? Spiros has seen the Yamuna, the Saraswati.
Stop. I'm soaking in it.
And the star, if I'm correct, the star tarot card corresponds to Aquarius, which is that correct?
There's different renditions.
Okay.
It's all interpretive. So like
Okay.
people have said that it's Venus, in the Kabbalah, it's between the seventh chesed and the moon, Yasad. And so it's that sort of polarity between dreams and desire, beauty, those type of things. And so there's some sense of hope or something. Maybe it's stability. Maybe it's the fixed stars of like the previous eras where you looked at the stars as sort of fixed things. Everything else is shifting, and they're just going in a circle, but they're in the same place all the time. So there's some sense of stability despite everything falling apart. So there's something just beyond ideals.
Yeah. And the tarot of the tower, just for people who don't, the tower is like being destroyed on the image, right? And the Rider-Waite or whatever, right? It's like being struck by lightning. It's like this tower's crumbling down. Exactly. And you're moving, so your thing is like moving from that to like this star or something that gives hope.
Yeah, moving from a space of feeling like everything's coming apart, and all the things that you felt have given you safety and security are evaporating in front of your eyes. And that's the transition. That's the transformational process we'd like to take everyone through.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the sort of tumbling of ourselves and tumbling of the worlds around us in astrology and in Jyotish reminds me of like what's going on. There's in the Mula Nakshatra, which is like Mula Bandha, and it's very root, but it's actually one of the it's later on in the sequence. That's like number 19. And then that's just super dark. There's no stars out there. It's just this blank part of the galaxy and the zodiac. And then the next one, Purva Asada, there's a little bit of water that comes. So it's so emblematic of this because, the towers fall, then there's nothing. And then, even in the cards, it's like still night, but there's water that comes. There's some juice that starts to happen. And from that, possibly a new vision.
I always like to look at the water as that is also like that the water has the reflective quality and amplifies the blessings of the star.
Mm.
Just a
Mm.
questions.
Lauren, in your work, like I'm curious about like how the star might relate to your work, because you're still like it's all glistening, but it's also dark. It's like
Yeah.
dark star, like a Grateful Dead, but it's also like
It's not like the Grateful Dead. I want to be very
well,
clear.
I know, but but it reminded me of Dark Star. I was also listening to a podcast, Weird Studies, where they talk about the star, and they were talking about sort of the dark version of the star, like the evil star, the scary star, the dark star, and
The like black holes, they don't like
Yeah.
stars as black
Yeah.
holes. It could just suck
Yeah.
all the energy into a thing.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
even
proud to
even
say that like I know so little about Grateful Dead. I don't even know your reference.
there's also
Me neither, just,
disaster.
Yeah.
Disaster is actually a Latin word for dark, for evil star.
Yes.
That's aster is a star. So disaster is like
Yeah.
of that. So I'm not saying we're bringing some goodness to this. We're not belaboring darkness, but I do find that there's some sort of like way that the darkness glistens into some sort of light through your work.
Yeah. And I'm a lover of the darkness. So, I don't see like the dark star as having a negative association, certainly. Just for the listeners, so my work is sculpture. And for the last few years, I've been using a lot of celestial imagery. So they're like these very sparkling, jeweled, star-like forms. And some of them are imploding into black holes. And so for me, it is this symbol where like the star maybe is the self, and the black hole imploding into like a space of no self. And then they're also like there's the exteriors tend to be highly patterned, and the interiors where it's black, there's generally no pattern. It's kind of rhythmic. And so for me, like the outside, there are always like relationships to things we know, like flower patterns, brocades, and the inside is this more unknown space, but it's actually a much more calming space. And so recently these forms, I've been kind of like pulling back. So there've been 3 series of work, and the first series, and it's interesting, it's sort of followed my Ashtanga journey as well. Like the first years I was working on primary, and they were very much about sort of self-examination. And so there were single sculptures in states of transformation. And then the second series is like when I was moving through second series in the studio and on the mat. And those were more like 2 things coming together, and it was kind of like taking that work and seeing how it meets the world. And now I've kind of pulled way back. I'm just starting third series. And the interior patterns have become not just a space of darkness, but like the whole of the cosmos. And rather than a single star, they're like patterns of constellations. And so you're seeing like the connection, or like a bigger span. So I've kind of moved from like the single star to like networks of stars, the stars as a whole field. Yeah.
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 I mean,
And I love, like that sense of like our bodies being stardust, and I think like we think of stars as being this really like a concept. It's something, so like incomprehensibly far away, but that these things are, we're talking about astrology. These things are impacting our bodies. They are our bodies. And so I love like that sense. One of the pieces I just made was called The Infinite Vast. And I love that sense of sort of like infinite and vastness being one.
Beautiful. I love when life imitates the practice or reflects.
Yeah. But it's interesting because right now, so I tend to work about 7 years on a body of work. And right now I'm in, and it all kind of moves together, like what happens on the mat, what happens in the studio. I learn, back and forth between them, and they tend to like parallel each other. And right now I'm kind of in the bardo, like I just finished this body of work. I don't know what's next. I have this back injury, so I'm also not practicing. I mean, just for a little moment. So I'm in like the space of nothing, which I'm trying to stay grounded about it, and then just like work my way back out.
The
I've been
tower.
Yeah, yeah. It's crumbling. But it's exciting. I mean, I think sometimes I can get very existential in this place. But I feel a sense of like excitement of seeing how these things build back together.
A couple other things that we're doing with our project is that we have we have one version of it where you can just give us your prayer or wish, and we can do a blessing at the river, and read it during auspicious times.
Yeah.
Let's see. And you can also get some Ganga water, which is sort of part of the river, part of, gently down the stream. That stream has always been our focus. I mean, we've talked about doing other rivers, but we always go back to Ganga and Ganga Ma. And she shakes us up and then blesses us also, but it takes some turmoil a little.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I'll take all the blessings and sacred water I can get. So yes. Yeah. I mean, in that creative process, it's like, it's interesting how you have to sometimes just get back to nothing and relearn like from fundamental principles. And I feel like I do that, on the mat all the time. Like suddenly I'll be like, I have no idea how to do downward dog, and then it's like that rebuilding that happens from the ground up.
Well, I've been in that creative space of
Yeah.
that bardo and like feeling oh my God, what's next? When's the next idea coming? Like will it ever come again? It's such a space to be in. And I was kind of in that space when Spiros gave me that call and was like, hey, maybe let's do something. And it was actually this project. It's already started to work. Like I've been in this last few months, I've like came out of a 2-year space of where you are. I mean, it was painful and frightening and angst provoking. And so the blessings have already begun. And
Yeah.
we're still speaking to each other miraculously.
We had some moments already. I mean, it felt like as soon as we agreed to it, we were already in full turmoil. Like we're already like bringing up all the nerves. Each of us were just like playing the piano of each other's like sore spots.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the performance and comic relief is the tension between Spiros and me. We have, I mean, our intention, we make sure our intentions are aligned, but we have very different operating systems towards getting there. And neither one of us are like geniuses at like marketing and promotion and all this other stuff. So we kind of just like do our best and just gotta let go and just put it out there. But I lost my train of thought. So when we met in Puerto Rico, I mean, part of it, I mean, we've remained friends through the years. We're always in touch, and we see each other from time to time. It's like, let's hang out for a week and see if we even like each other anymore. I mean, we're about to go for 2 months, probably be sharing a room most of the time.
Yeah,
And
I can't collaborate in the studio, so I am impressed that you've been able to like have this communication and maintain a relationship. It's the one place I'm both. I often feel like my studio practice is just this elaborate rationale to be a hermit, and it's like it creates like a socially acceptable reason for me to like just not see people. But I'm also like an absolute dictator in there. I can't delegate.
Yeah, I'm similar. I usually work alone, but
Yeah.
this is for both of us. It's more than just a collaboration on our
Yeah.
project. It's become part of our sadhana. Like
Yeah.
I said, once I
Yeah.
got the call, I was like, all right, we're in. Like this kind of like it has to be done. Um,
Yeah.
and
It's like everyone's that's listening, it's all y'all's eyeballs that's the divine, and it's
Yeah.
like penetrating us and your people and your things and your stresses. We have histories and we don't know you, and suddenly you're like on us, but we're like on this like vision quest.
Yeah.
And we have people that are like investing in it like they invest in stocks, but they're investing in our own collapse, really. They're
yeah,
because they're also believing that through the other side will share some light.
Mm.
Yeah,
we
that
hope.
coin,
New
there's
age
lots of different
Bitcoin.
ways to activate that coin. One is, first of all, we're activating it, we're consecrating it by doing the rituals and going through the process. But then you can put it on your altar as sort of a resonant frequency. But I think, and it's not easy to do because they're not that cheap, but the giving of the coin to someone else activates it for you and imbues it with something for someone else. So, and we want to hear about. So when you give it to somebody else, please let us know. And that way we keep the light alive in a sense. So
You've been pretty quiet.
yeah,
Me?
Yes.
yes.
Yes. I
I'd love
don't
to hear.
consider
I'd
myself
love
an
to hear from
artist so
you.
much.
I'd
So
love to
it's
hear from
just
you. Some
fascinating. I
insight
really
to
just want to
us.
listen and take it in. It's really fascinating. I mean, for me, what comes up is the sacred nature of the material world.
Mhm.
That's what keeps coming up for me. I'm a longtime Zen Buddhist, so which is really like an earth-based, grounded, practical way to approach waking or expanding consciousness. Like the statue of him touching the earth, like here on this earth, it occurs. And so, the material world is not something to, I feel like in yoga, there can be a thing of just like you're trying to leave this planet or escape into some abstract, kind of beyond. And I just love hearing, it's about a place on the planet. It's these material things that we consecrate, and there's vibration there, and it's all part of being on the planet and using this opportunity to just, connect and expand.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like making, oh, go ahead.
But thank you for bringing that up and
Yeah.
reminding me of that. The last few years I've been doing a lot of like esoteric medicine practices, kind of a lot of work out there. And it
Mhm.
hit me more than a year ago. It's like, the work is down here, Barry. Come back, do things like in your proper consciousness, in your physical body. And so I have been doing a few other things like that this year. So thank you for that reminder of that this process is part of that. And it mixes both. We're bringing the esoteric, but into the physical.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like it's the difference between like transcendence and immanence, and that like working with physical reality, you're not looking for something sacred that's an abstraction that's elsewhere, but it's like you're finding the connection to what's right here, and
Yeah.
so I always say, it's like my little tagline, it's like, if all of these things are about becoming like interbeing, that's like on the yoga mat, in the studio, I do it with things. On the mat, I do it with my body. And on the meditation cushion, I do it with nothing. But that, it's like anything you would need to learn, you learn by being in the art studio, it's getting outside of predetermined ideas, because it's like I might come to a material with an idea of what's possible, and then it shows you that it's not possible. You have to let go and just like see what's present rather than your story of what's going to occur. I feel like there's just like so many lessons that for me go back and forth between all of these practices. But
It's a
and
lot
I always,
about the thisness. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I feel too, it's like when you, it's, you know, like it's like person to person, but it's like when you can connect with something, the consciousness of something outside your body, it's like 1 + 1 = everything, you know. It's hard to go from one to everything, but if you have that intermediary, whether it's like being in love, it's a spiritual teacher, whatever you can connect with, I think can be that route. And I think when you like really learn a material, you know, you do connect to the consciousness of that thing.
For me, it's all just a reminder of the luminosity in the everyday, you know, and the sublime in the mundane. I think like Dogon or something like
Yeah.
that. But also there's some sort of, like you're saying, in the Sangha, in the transpersonal nature of being. Like, you know, there's something about a family or a group of spiritual family that's trying to get together and remind each other that there's more than the grind that we're being pulled into, and uplift us. And it's not like something outside of ourselves, even though for our work we've focused on the star, which is like the farthest away we can possibly conceive. But really we're also just, you know, sharing thread, sharing t-shirts, a weaving of something like a tantra. It's like we're weaving this story that reminds us that, you know, the emblems on this are here to remind us. The story about it is here to remind us about what? About just being present to what's happening and realizing that there's something else at work. And if you make, you know, if you are informed, or there's a little space, a little sattva that happens between, you know, our like stubbornness of, no, I have to stand and be here, and our, you know, vata, or our like, you know, going out and doing stuff. And then there's, you know, the sublime. There's like, and it's all right here, right now. So that sort of effort, or Barry and I think our hope, and the hope of going for a blessing and a bath in the Ganges, is all about being rinsed of all that stuff so that we can just be present to everything that's happening. And that's also samadhi, in a sense, is like, just, can we be present to what's happening without all the blockages of what we know? But we still need to use what we know, but it can't be in the way.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really interested in that idea of the sigil and this form. Like it's just so, I have no real reference. This idea of a sigil and like it's like a mind form.
Yep.
Right? It's
Yep.
like a mind object. And that has a power in the, you were talked about it briefly, the power in the subconscious. I just find that fascinating.
I mean,
same concept, I suppose, as yantra, where the geometric shape symbolizes a certain strand of energy. And the same way the sigil, well, the way that's different ways, but the classical way of making sigils, you actually write out a word, series of words, your intention, remove the vowels, remove the duplicate letters, and then you take the letters that remain and just start to kind of free form, draw those letters, turn them upside down, sideways, fit them into each other. The shape does not necessarily need to make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, it actually comes from the, you know, it comes to me from in the 90s, like chaos magic and that sort of, I mean, chaos magic is earlier, but it came to me in the 90s. And that is the most common, with the way Barry described it perfectly, is with a common, but there's other ways of doing it. But the idea is that you get something, you articulate it clearly, and then you get it out of your mental constructs, and you trust in the world, you trust in something that it will actually manifest, that it will actually be true, that thisness is always already happening. And that's the basic practice of that sigil. And Barry's also super right that it's a yantra, you know, it's actually our yantra for this project. And we had to go back and forth and be very clear about what our intentions are, And then we had to go back and forth about our aesthetics and how do we articulate this graphically. I mean, that was almost the hardest part. And we were in this like
Really,
dome.
we
We nearly
ponder.
broke up.
We go back and forth, and we have to keep reminding each other. Like, no, this is why I'm doing it. You think I'm doing it because of this? No, but because I'm an aesthetic person. I'm also a Libra. Like, I love balance. Like, I wanted it to make sense, and he's like, it's not supposed to make sense. And I forget, we had this one point where it's just, you're saying it looks like a manda, looks like a yantra. It's not supposed to. I was like, I never wanted a sigil. You wanted a sigil. He's like, oh yes. I mean, no, it's like, and also to make sure, like, that's our process to get to like, okay, we're there. We both agreed. No, it's like you said, collaboration is not easy. It requires communication, and through the communication, we learn from each other. We learn about each other. There's definitely compromise that needs to happen, and then we come together, and it's I believe the finished, use the product, but the finished imagery, or whatever that thing is, it's sincere.
Yeah, it's got a lot of mojo.
And we went through our process to get it and make sure that it's clear. It's what we want. It's what we want to say and express, how we like it to be expressed, and hopefully that the viewer or holder or experiencer feels that intention, that it comes through.
It's funny because Barry wanted to make something that was like very balanced and beautiful, and I'm like, it has to be there has to be something at rupture. There has to have a rupture in it so that actually the spirit can come in. If it's just completely, overlaid, then that's like stopping it. So we were back and forth about our creative process and about the spirit and about the magic of this. And eventually we ended up on some good stuff, but it was not simple.
No, it was not. It was not. We have some video. We forgot I ever posted that video of us under the dome when we're actually writing it out. And no, it was a nice place to do it. It was a good place to start that process under that dome in that theological center. Was that what it's called? The
Theosophy. Yeah.
I love the idea of the rupture, because now I'm thinking about like the punctum, like in a photo where you have like, and I'm imagining these 108 people wearing them. What's interesting is like, if you had that 108 pictures, in some ways the shirt is the only thing you would stop looking at, because like what would change would be like the body it's on, the place the shirt is. Like in some ways the shirt would disappear in that context. And I think it's like, because I come from the jewelry background, and a garment, it's also something like you wear on the body. It's just like interesting to me, like there's everything that went into designing the sigil, designing the shirt, but in some ways that's just like before the beginning, because then they'll go out, they're going to be on bodies, they're going to be different sizes, they're going to get stained, some of them are going to get worn, they're going to be in different places. I don't know, there's just something that's so interesting about like what happens to them.
I just had this hit when you're talking about that.
Yeah.
Almost like that it's almost like a team jersey.
Yeah.
And wearing it like everyone's on the team. And the only thing that identifies an individual is your number on the back.
Yeah. And in that way, I mean, it's like the difference between like if we look at a painting, it's like we're going to look at it together on the wall. But when it's on your body, it's like, it's not like just like owning like an artwork that hangs separately from you, but it's like you're allowing people to see that as part of you.
One of the things early on we had talked about this. I mean, I say early on, I mean like the early 2000s. And one of the reasons I love doing screen printed T-shirts, I got so inspired. It was actually Eddie Stern was really the one who was doing. He had screen printed when he was younger, and then we started doing screen printing at the yoga studio, literally like at the yoga school at night.
The chai shop. I would just come into the chai shop one day with a big bag, and then people would buy them that day.
We were screen printing like on the floor of the yoga school, and people would come, the first students that would show up at like 5 in the morning, the shirts would be laid out on the floor drying, and we'd have to like clean up the shirts. And then later I lived in Tokyo for a few years, at a Mysore program there, and I started my own t-shirt brand, and my brand was called GBSK, and I loved putting my moniker on there. So the concept, one of the reasons I loved t-shirts as a vehicle for art, it's like the old school graffiti mentality, right? So this is why so many graffiti artists in New York painted on the trains. Right? If you paint it on the side of a building in a neighborhood, the only people who are going to see it are the people in the neighborhood who walk by it. But the thing about the trains, if you paint on a train and you live in the Bronx, people in Queens, people in Brooklyn are going to see your artwork as the train goes through. That's why I always love t-shirts as a vehicle. You do your art, and then people, it's like it gets carried around, and people get seen the artwork.
Yeah, it's like you can infiltrate any space. And like we were talking about this, like in the beginning, about like bringing things together and how it can have like this cumulative magic of unifying things. And it's like you made the shirts in the sacred place, but like what are the other places that it needs to go? You know, not just like the bodies and the people, but like the location.
And also, like I was saying, it's not just about like the branding people will see gently down. Like the hope is like when somebody walks in the room with this shirt, it's going to lift the frequency of the whole room.
Yeah,
And
not
it's also like
rationally, but
where
like energetically.
yeah, like the spirit of the shirt, or the where it wants to go is also at play.
Yeah, it's like
in a sense.
bees. It's like we're like coffee. Like there's like a Michael Pollan where he talks about like how people think they love coffee, and we're like, no, the coffee plant has colonized you to propagate it, right?
I love that
So it's like
concept.
there's something that needed this to come forward, and then you're like the agents that bring it forward. The 108 people willingly or unwittingly then are like the second agents that bring it out.
And I love that concept. So it's like, when you're wearing the shirt, we'll use this as the example because this is what we're talking about. But if you think about this in almost any item that you have or something that you're wearing, like it takes you, like it needs to go to this party, it needs to go to this event because it needs to be seen by these certain people. And like suddenly you're not making the decision. Well, not a great analogy, but like you talk about like amoebic beings in your body, like you think you're running the show, but actually they're running the show, right? So it's like suddenly like whatever item you're wearing, like it takes you, maybe not whatever, but something certainly as empowered as this shirt is and will be, will actually start running the show and hopefully take you to the right places.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a little bit about what goes on in Jyotish, and that's why you do practices, is like all the grahas have all this grasping of you. And sometimes you're just doing these performances, these rituals, just to get a little wiggle room, to have a little bit of autonomy, as if our minds really have a better idea. But sometimes it does. Sometimes there's growth. But also I was thinking about the sameness and difference of the t-shirts as that we were discussing as a correlated. There's a correlationship between that and like Atma and Brahma. In a sense of like, we think we have this like little idea of how important our individuality is, but it's a little bit like what Barry was saying, just a number on a sublime on a shirt that actually represents Brahma, and that's the actual completeness. That's the non-dual. And that's also the reason why we chose to have one pot from which all the water's coming, rather than the classic in like Rider-Waite, where there's two. And, one could be the sublime and one could be the mundane. But in some ways, as you were saying, it's just the thisness of one thing, what's happening now.
I like how it's born out of conflict in a way, that you two, and there's a, like there's a fire in that. There's like the beating and the, what are the three B's, the beating, that you guys are doing with the shirts, right? It's like, it's to me, that is such a part of growth, for me personally, is just dealing with conflict and that, you can collaborate and there's conflict and there's resolution and then there's like a larger vision that moves out into the world from that, as opposed to like, you know, going, you know, making the world smaller and smaller and smaller, which I feel like is the kind of karmic tendency for the person who's just not interested in growing consciously, is just to close off, close down. And so I see what you're doing in that way, that you know, you have to hammer it out. And then this sigil is like this form, this condensed idea that is a form that has a vibration, and then, you know, it moves out into the world from there.
Yeah.
And
Bathed, beaten, blessed.
There we go.
That's that's the thing. And I actually don't know exactly where we got it. We like the alliteration. I don't know where it came from.
I don't know. It was 20 years ago, literally. We still have people, when we did the project, like when we first started posting about it, there was so much excitement from people who participated in the old ones. They're like, I still have my first one also. People have 20 years, they still have the t-shirt that we brought. I mean, it's really like, it's a thing. And we really, we're both quite stubborn. I recognize my own stubbornness around that collaboration stuff. And it is, it is a good thing. I see, like, you know, neither one of us are going to give in. We both really give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not just like, all right, we'll make it like everything, the color, like every single thing we really like, kind of like, that's our process. And, you know, we don't like fight or yell at each other. Of course, we get frustrated because especially me, actually, I'm a bit more like, I'm very result oriented. I could be a bit of a hack as an artist because I'm really like a conceptual artist. I want to just like tell a story or get a point across. And I use different mediums. I'm not an expert at some of them. And I just get the shit made so people could like, I just want to tell the story. And Spirits is much more thoughtful around that.
I'm more, Neptune and the moon conjunct.
Like, let me
spacey, but sometimes I have a hard time manifesting.
But it's nice
so we complement.
When you're together, because I find like if I'm alone in the studio, a lot happens. It's like below consciousness, like it's not intuitive, or like it's not happening in a realm of thought. And so I think it's interesting when you're together that you have to really articulate like why that blew, and like fight about it, you know, but that it's like, and I love that artists can do that, like that you would like fight about like how big that triangle is going to be.
We
care, but also because it matters. Like if you're making like a spell, basically, like those proportions are important, you know?
All the details, everything matters. The symbol that we're dealing with, like symbolism, and it's really important that it lines up properly and tells the story.
Barry, can you explain the bathed, beaten, and blessed? Can you go through the process?
I talked about it earlier, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. So what we do is the process, the project is called Bathed, Beaten, and Blessed, and we take the shirts. We literally take each shirt one by one, say a mantra, and dunk them in the Ganges River. Go ahead. What?
No, so I think the process of bathing is like a little bit, you know, like what we were just saying, it's a bit about like coming to the realization that something needs to happen. And gosh, you know, I have to take off my clothes and wash up. I have to get ready. I have to clean my room. You know, that's the bathed. And then the beaten is like, okay, now I know that change needs to happen, but I'm a stubborn son of a whatever. And I'm not going to do this so easily. So there's going to be friction. There's going to be fire. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be punctures, wounds, you know, beaten. And so in some sense, but also in India, you know, if you give your shirts to get done and they're somewhere by a river, they're often done by a Dhobi wala who actually takes the clothes and beats them on rocks. And that was sort of the inspiration. I know that was part of the bathed, beaten, and blessed. And then you hang them to dry after they've gone through the ring and blah, blah, blah. You hang them to dry. And then that's when we would take them to the temples and have them blessed by the local community, by the spaces that came out of. And in that sense, it represents the spiritual progression, you know, sequence. Whether you're doing sadhana, whether you're, you know, taking psychedelics or just sitting for decades staring at a white wall, which is what I think Ashtanga yoga actually kind of is.
Staring at the white wall of the psychedelics or all of the above?
No, well, all of the above, but staring like we give it's Ashtanga yoga for me has always been, these strict forms, but those forms are kind of meaningless. I mean, you're kind of struggling with yourself, and you kind of there's more ways to delude yourselves with Ashtanga yoga than staring at a wall, but it's more participatory and immersive. But the results can be similar if one sticks with it. But it takes time for this other mind to sort of evolve or come to the forefront, the background to become the foreground in a sense of our lives and what's happening. And that's why you need kind of decades in order to really shift awareness from the mundane to the sublime.
Yeah.
My thought.
Yeah. And having a teacher, having that external person who's going to not, give the beatings, so to speak. Right? Not from a personal place of like you deserve to be beaten, but that you're stepping into a place with this teacher to say, I'm ready to grow. And so this person is going to, from a place of love, and it's not a personal attack, but they're going to offer teachings that beat the ego centric cherishing, and then you can step into that place of being blessed. Right. And if there, if there's not an external teacher, that's what I'm looking at as you guys are talking. I think we all have, there's a bigger sense of, I don't know, whatever God or the universe or whatever word you want to put on it, that we're drawn to, that leads us into seeing that, yes, I can be caught in my karmic habits and patterns that keep me small. And like kind of what Barry was saying, like this project that you're doing is the thing that's taking you outside of yourself into this whole doing all this work, and you're inspired to do something bigger than yourself.
We see each other's blind spots, and sometimes we're gentle and sometimes we're the opposite. But we trust each other enough. Yeah.
Sorry, but we haven't mentioned a pretty important aspect of the timing of the project and why we're inspired to go. We alluded to it earlier, but so we're going at the time of the Kumba Mela. We haven't really talked about. Can I talk about the Kumba Mela a little bit?
Yeah, would you? Some of the listeners might have no idea what that is.
Yeah, so the Kumba Mela is a festival that's been going on for eons. It happens in India. It happens once every 12 years. And there are 4 different locations, all at the banks of the Ganges River. And each 12 years, it rotates to one of those 4 different locations. It takes place over 40 days. So the last one was in 2013. They say that it was the largest gathering of humans in the history of mankind. Over the 40-day period, they estimate 120 million people showed up to bathe themselves in the Ganges River, because these effects of the Ganges River, everything is super amplified during this confluence, this astrological confluence. So there's a number of confluences happening at the time: the confluence of humans coming together, this confluence of astrological constellation, and also the confluence of the 3 rivers we were talking about earlier, because the place where it's happening this year is called Prayagraj, where the Ganges, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati merge. And so we'll be based in Varanasi, which is about just a few miles from the Kumba Mela, and going to visit and participate in the Kumba Mela. So we're doing it all around that wild ruckus and throwing ourselves into that energy of the Kumba Mela, and really looking for, I've never been. I've been to India a number of times. I've been to some large gatherings, but this is kind of next level stuff. And no, I'm super stoked. Spiros?
Well, it ends during Mahashivaratri. So, you know, everything that's happening just a little bit north in Allahabad, which is now not called Allahabad, and everybody comes down for Shivaratri, comes down to Varanasi because it's the city of lights, but also where people have been burning for eons, also like at the banks continuously for eons. And so there's some sort of, some of this sublime and mundane aspect of just seeing rotting flesh and people going crazy with this idea of wakefulness and staying up all night and going through the various levels of consciousness, and in just the madness of it, that there's some sort of sublime stability is that will be our stamp on our project.
When Spiros talks about this burning and the flesh and the dying, for those who don't know, Varanasi is a very holy city and known as the place. It's a city of death. That's where people go. It's a blessing to die in Varanasi. It said if you die in Varanasi, your soul, you get off the wheel and your soul, you get off the wheel of samsara and you kind of finish your business down here and don't have to come back anymore. And the thing about with Shivaratri, they say that Shiva represents pure consciousness. And one of the ways in yoga and in life, one way to understand a thing, to really understand and create a relationship with it, is to imitate that thing. And because they say pure consciousness is always awakened, that for the night of Shivaratri, imitate consciousness and stay up all night. That's one of the reasons of that all-nighter, as Spiros was saying, to like go through these different levels of consciousness and act like pure consciousness in order to become pure consciousness or embody pure consciousness. And it's also, I mean, like Shivaratri, there's different, I traveled in India and gone to different, it's really fascinating to go around and see different places, different temples, different towns, how they could worship the same deity in very different ways. Some are very, very soft and sweet, and some are just fierce. Yeah. So it's and I've been to India during Shivaratri, and I've been to Varanasi before, but not during Shivaratri, and certainly not it being the culmination of the 40 days of the Kumba Mela. So yeah, it's like a rave. Plus.
At its best.
What are you going to carry the t-shirts in? Is there like some special? I have very practical questions.
Good question.
We can't even agree like what suitcases to get. Like we've been going for.
I mean, like, is there like some special thing that holds them, like for this one moment while they're together, or is it just like in like a bag?
It's very special. It's called a Samsonite.
Yes.
Samsonite.
Yes, it's very special.
We did agree.
Pull-up handle and 4 spinner wheels at the bottom, and the sacred color of blue. No, we were literally like, we should get the roll, because we bought these like Patagonia rolling duffel bags for the last time, and I still have mine, but I wish I had it with me. Like, I'm in San Francisco. I thought I was leaving where I was staying before. I thought I was leaving for 10 days. I've been gone for 3 months. And so literally, like, it's another thing. Should we get a bag? Should we get a rolling bag? Should we get a hard shell luggage? Should we get this? Like, I've actually been looking on like Facebook Marketplace because I have one. Anyway, we're just.
No, but we need to get the same one, I think. But also, we don't know. We have no idea where we're going to be staying. We have one place in Varanasi for 10 days scheduled, and it's not when we first land, and we have to figure everything else out. We have to listen to spirit and desperation and all the other elements and find. So it's a choose your own adventure.
It's been like 6 years since I've been to India, and I've been looking at some bookings, and it's like, it's not so India anymore in the price point for accommodations anymore. It's like I'm going to Brooklyn.
No, Mumbai, it's expensive.
Oh, it's costly. I was just looking
more expensive than New York.
I was looking at Airbnbs in Mumbai. It's like costly, man. Yeah, it's like yeah. So yeah, so we leave a lot of open space. We leave a lot of open space for happenstance, for like to see what gets called in. it's just we operate kind of better that way. We have like 10, like I said, we have 10 days booked, and with those 10 days are during the Kumba Mela, and 2 of them are their main bathing days. Like it's super amplified period of time that we've blocked out these 10 days that we have accommodations on the river in Varanasi, and that's where that's like those 10 days will really do the project. But who knows what'll happen before then. We might just hang out and travel and see some friends, and I have a feeling also get called in to do some preparatory work to get
We'll visit
ourselves
temples,
aligned,
we'll do some
and
practices.
so that we're in the right space when we enter into Varanasi, and also give ourselves a few weeks to really acclimate, not just show up in Varanasi and jet lag and who knows what else. So yeah, I like that. Oh, yes, we're leaving January 3rd. I just booked my flight today. Yes, I'm
Wow.
excited. Yes.
Wow.
It's good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, and it's great. So people can probably, which we're doing our best along. So we started a Substack. We have an Instagram page if people want to follow along. It's going to start to get more fun, of course, once we get to India, and as we get closer to the river, and start to do the actual consecration process. I mean, the consecration process on ourselves it's already begun, but
It's already begun.
if people want to follow, it's a fun project to just follow along, and people don't have to participate or get anything. It's like I will try to do our best that even just not even just, but following the trip along, give ways for people to participate and feel like they're part of, and share in the prayer, which is really what the project is. It's really I keep saying just, the project is a prayer.
Gentlydownproject.com.
Gentlydownproject.com.
Gentlydown.substack.com. And there we have some videos that you can see if you follow us on Instagram.
Our Instagram is Gently Down Project. It's all Gently Down Project. Instagram is Gently Down Project. The website is gentlydownproject.com. You can see all the goodies. Had fun making the website. It came out good. I like it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really well done. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I feel like one could kind of like glance over it. I get some funny, really, that's why I'm excited to kind of get there and start to post more around when we're there. Not everybody gets the project. I get these, I've got a few calls like, oh, so how many people are you taking? Like they think we're taking people on a like a yatra, like a pilgrimage. Like, no one's coming.
We can barely handle ourselves.
No, but the most painful one was one of my really good friends messaged me, and she goes, "Oh my God, this project looks amazing. So he's taking you with him?" I was like, no, I'm still not speaking to.
Yeah. Do you have
I
a
mean,
sense of like ownership of the shirts? I mean, it's interesting, like, because it's a multiple. And so like sometimes I tend to like, I'm very, very invested. Like I will pull out, my eyelashes if I have to finish a piece. But once it's done, it's like, it can just go, like, I don't have a sense of attachment to the final thing. And I'm like curious about with the t-shirts, like you've invested so much, you'll have traveled with them. Like if I get my shirt and I like cut it into some like little like cut off, like
it happens.
yeah. I mean, I'm just curious, like, do you feel invested in them as they move around the world, or do you let go of them? Yeah.
No, I'm full non-attachment. Full non-attachment.
I love that they get stained or they get cut, and that's part of it.
And sew it onto the back of a denim jacket or use it as a schmata rag. That's on you.
Yeah.
Do whatever you
Swaha.
want. Whatever you want.
To the fire.
No, on the contrary, I will be so glad after 2 months of schlepping these things around India. I will be so glad to have them out and off and out. Yeah. And for I mean, I say that's kind of in jest, but like really for the people to get them, to have them in their hand. I think will be a very fulfilling unpackaging moment when they get them. So in the past, each time, the first time each time we've done some stuff, like we brought the shirts kind of raw. I mean, they were printed before we got there, but each time while we're there, we've augmented the shirts. We've made labels and stitched them in the shirts. And the last one, we had these mala beads that were actually detachable that were sewn into the shirt, that were like ethically taken from a strand of 108. And we took the strands and 3 strands, and each person got 1 bead from that. And we've also we've designed bags. Each one's been slightly different. We're not sure what's going to happen this time, but we just throw in a few little, temple cards and trinkets and make a nice little bag so people have a nice unpackaging experience around that. Yeah, it's super fun. Super fun. Yeah, I love it. You kind of have to love it and really think of it as sadhana, because it's, I mean, really, from when we first started until we actually send these shirts out, like it's been like 7-8 months of work. And it's
I just also remember our first time, like we got there, it was like Ganga Dahasri or whatever, like we had so much Dahasra. Yeah, and we had so, like, it was a huge line. Everybody was going to
yes.
Rishikesh.
My God, no, actually,
But it was perfect.
We were in Haridwar, and we couldn't get. So Haridwar is a river, a city that's on the Ganges. It's a beautiful place. They have it's very famous for they have an evening arati they do every night. And there's these small crossover bridges. Some of them are walkovers, but there's only like 2 kind of, actually, you can't take cars, they're only rickshaw bridges.
It took hours to get into the city.
We had to get out of the car. So we didn't even know we were showing up on one of the biggest festival days of the year called Ganga.
It was for Ganga, when that was our purpose of being there.
We had
so it also
no idea. We couldn't
sense.
even get close. We had to get out of the taxi from the airport. Remember, our taxi driver was taking shortcuts, going literally through fields to get us as close as he could. And this was in the old days when all they had in India was the old
ambassadors.
Ambassadors, thank you. And we had to get out of the car with like 2 giant bags
Huge.
and wheel them into, like, oh my God. Yeah.
Not only that, but then we also got a bunch of swamis that they just got the project. They just were excited. It was like a weird project, and suddenly they're like making phone calls and getting us deals, and like, okay, you can go to this temple, you go to this time. Oh, you're going up north here. You call this guy, and they were all involved.
One of our teachers, Robert Moses, who's just knows India so well, like literally had a piece of paper with a phone number written on it. This was 2005, with a piece of paper with a phone number written on it. He's like, if you end up near Uttarkashi, which is on like halfway between Rishikesh and Gangotri in the Himalayas, call this guy. And so we're in Rishikesh, and I'm like, I called him. He goes, yes, you come tomorrow. I'm like, all right, Spiros, we're going tomorrow. And we showed up. And so at first they were a little standoffish. Who are these guys with these shirts, this project? And then after a couple of days, they started to get to know us a little bit. And we were all, we liked each other. And next thing you know, this guy was like, okay, I have a car for you. This Swami is taking you. You guys are going to go up there. He's going to get you set up at a place to stay. We're going to have somebody set up the temple for you to do the blessing. And this is in a place called Gangotri, which is like this tiny town in the Himalayas on the Ganges. It's like, no, it's so wild. It's kind of the end of the road. Like you can't go any further from there. You have to hike. And so we took that hike, an overnight hike up into from Gangotri, which they say is the spiritual source of the Ganges, where she fell. They say mythologically, the Ganges was a celestial river that came down, lost a bet, and it was, so she had to come down to the earth, and she was like laughing. She goes, I'll come down, but I'll destroy the earth with my power. And it was Shiva who said, I'll break the fall. So the Ganga hit Shiva's head and then softly, gently came down to earth at Gangotri. And that's why if you look at pictures of Shiva in his Mata Jata, you'll see the little head, the little Ganges spurting out the river. So we did the blessing ceremonies at Gangotri, the mythological source of the Ganges. And then we hiked overnight to Gomukh, which is the glacier, the geological source. You could see the Ganges like bursting out of the Himalayas. It's magnificent. And Spiros went in. I've been there twice. The first time I didn't go in, it was too cold. Spiros went in, he got like hypothermia.
Naked.
No, I had to like wrap him in blankets and oh,
I was
man.
trying to stay in for like a minute, but I made it like 20, 30 seconds. And
But I was actually a little disappointed with myself that I didn't go in like after. But then once I saw him get hypothermia, I was like glad I didn't go back. But I went back on another trip with a group, and I was determined, and I went in and took my dip.
Nice. I went up there in 2014. Yeah,
to go
with Robert Moses on a yatra.
Robbie,
Kate and I went. Yeah,
those trips are the best, man. Robert's
Yeah.
such a. I mean, I don't know anyone who knows the mystical landscape of India like Robert.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate. I met Kate on one of those trips,
Yeah.
and I went 4 or 5 as the yoga teacher slash Sherpa slash wrangler.
Yeah.
And man, that's when I really got to know India. You know, most of my trips prior to that were I would go direct to Mysore and never leave.
Right.
And then like those yatras, not the Namli Rupa yatras, just like opened India up for me.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I've had moments in my life when life is really good, and I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? I get these flashes back from the yatras of that making that effort, going on those pilgrimages, the tapas that's built, and going into these sacred places that millions, hundreds of thousands of people, devotees that pass through, and like it's charged with such energy. And I really get these flashes sometimes, excuse me, of like specific temples. And I'm like, this blessing came from that. So I'm so stoked to go back to India. Like it's the for those of us who are tapped in and appreciate that energy, like it's the source, and the Ganges is like been such a blessing for both of us.
You guys will be bathed, blessed, and beaten, or not in that order: bathed, beaten, and blessed. Traveling in India, it's tough. You know, it's not easy.
No, it is.
Especially when you get up into those remote towns, those roads, and you're flying around in those cars, and it's like, you know, it's you know, you're risking something for sure. Yeah.
Indeed. You know, people want to go, and I know people like ask me for advice about traveling. And they look at a map and they're like, "It's not that far." Give yourself some time. Maybe choose 1 or 2 places for that trip. So that's why we also want to leave that time open. And I've planned trips I've been a little too ambitious, and it's just exhausting.
Yeah, totally.
It could be just such sensory overload.
So you guys leave
have
January
time to go to the
3rd.
chai shop. Yeah, we leave January 3rd. I'm leaving January 4th, but we'll arrive at the same place.
You fly into Delhi?
Mumbai.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll fly out of Delhi.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll spend the first week, 10 days in Mumbai, just getting grounded. We have a couple of friends to see there, and
supplies, planning, some sort of structural planning once we're on the ground there.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, Mumbai's a great city. It's got that Portuguese influence. It's on the water. So many different levels and layers, depending upon who's showing you around. And yeah, it'll be great. Maximum City.
Anyways, we're looking forward to
Maximum City. Has anybody? It's a great book about Bombay, Mumbai.
What's it called?
Maximum City.
Maximum City. Okay.
It was an Indian journalist who was pretty much like born and raised in New Jersey. He was married, had 2 kids, and decided to go back, and dropped into Bombay's like this fusion of like racketeers, underworld Bombay mafia, the Bollywood cinema, and the sex trade.
Oh, wow.
And like it's really interesting, like kind of like old like pulp version of Bombay. And then there's an extra chapter at the end called Letting Go, something like this, and it's this like short story about a Jain family in Gujarat who who is like this whole process where you kind of like you go to this level of austerity when you become kind of baptized, and they will become nuns and monks, and you give up everything. They give up everything in this whole process of like it's fascinating stuff, like austere Jainism. The philosophy is so based on karma and all these different ways to live your life without harming any even like microscopic beings, from how you cut your hair, brush your teeth, bowel movements, and this whole process of like they give all their money away, they give their clothes away, they give their names away, they give their relationship away. I'm no longer your brother, I'm no longer your sister, like everything. And this whole process that they go through, it's fascinating stuff. Yeah. Anyway, Maximum City. Yeah.
Looking forward to people joining us on our trip.
Yes, please. Support.
So why don't you say, the Instagram, let's leave with that, the Instagram and how they can, I'll put it in the notes at the bottom, but.
Everything is Gently Down Project. So the Instagram is Gently Down Project. The website is gentlydownproject.com. And the Substack, Spiros, is Gently Down Project?
It's just Gently Down.
Just Gently Down.
Maybe we should change it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And Lauren, you want to say a little something here about your work, or a little plug for yourself?
I mean, I don't know when this podcast is going to go live, but I have a solo show at a gallery in New York, Clara Oliver Gallery, up through January 18th, called Some Lands Are Made of Light. And you can find that on my Instagram, which is Lauren Fensterstock, or Lauren Fensterstock. And my website is laurenfensterstock.com.
Right
Awesome.
on.
Awesome.
Where's the gallery? What part of town?
135th Street and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome.
All right.
Beautiful.
Well, I guess the next time we'll check in with you two you'll be on your way. You'll be over there. All right. And so we can, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, so that's what we'll do. We'll check in, and anything else? Any other final
Happy New Year, everyone. I guess this will be broadcasting shortly after the New Year.
Yeah. I'm gonna do my best to get it out there by then.
Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you for your time.
I can't wait to wear my shirt.
The panel. Thank
I'm gonna
you.
get one.
Please do.
So mote it be.
Good to see you. Nice to meet you.
All right, I'll pause it and we can have a little off air time here.